Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Um, Welcome. As always, we'll give everyone a few minutes here to filter in. If you want to use your raise hand, the Q&A section, or the chat to ask your questions, we will get to you, and just give everyone a couple minutes to filter in. Hey, everyone. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in one of the chat options, or use your raise hand function, and we will unmute you or answer your question respectively. Can we unmute Alex, please, Sabrina? Oh, actually, I can't I? Sorry, I forgot I could do that. Hey, Alex, go ahead. Excuse me.
Hey, Will, how are you doing? So I have a quick question, or two actually quick questions. I'm trying to get a dashboard page to refresh, and I'm wondering, like, are there any limitations on what types of data can refresh? Like, for example, I have a report viewer control, which is pointing to a report, which is pointing to a simple data structure. And so in the report viewer, I set this thing to to refresh on the underlying entity change.
Right. Okay.
And it doesn't change.
Yeah. That's going to be. There is no limitation. Some page controls are not refreshable, but they would not have any refresh behaviors in their properties, and a report viewer does. So what you're going to do is, do I still have page? Yes. So you want to do two things. If I look at my page and I look at my report viewer, and I look at behavior, yes. You're using like on contain entity change.
Yep.
So this implies, and I'd love which of our doc team members, I bet we don't have refresh behaviors covered well at all. Andrew, so this implies you're of a certain entity level context, like an account or a comment or a document.
Oh, okay, so like a simple data type is not an entity.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So what you want is what you can do, you can force any report viewer to refresh by doing two things. Use on current folder change. Now you can specify your minimum refresh interval here and pair that up with a send folder refresh event step that has the ID of the folder that this report viewer is paired with. Those two things will let you refresh any report of any data type.
Okay, so basically in my flow, when the data gets updated, I basically send a folder refresh.
Yeah, exactly. Are you familiar with that step?
Yep.
Just so I can get it on, I'll just go ahead and get it on the screen here for those of us that
Okay,
that
and so
aren't.
my other alternative would be to use an entity instead of a simple data type.
That yes, but I mean, in terms of, yeah, I mean that's true. But you can this is probably this other refresh pattern is the most commonly used one, where you run an action
Yep.
and then either and then there you might want to, depending on how you do this, you might want to scope this for a user, because this will do it for everyone, but you can specify for users or groups or for current user session. There's some you have some opportunities here to scope the refresh. So
Okay.
just to like, because maybe when you have an example where you say you have a queue of work and you've got a large number of people working on that queue, you might not want to be sending refresh events to everyone if they're right constantly, because it could get a little it's event driven. To Alex, these are event driven refreshes. There is an auto refresh timer as well that allow you to specify a refresh event on time span. That would be a workable but not best practice refresh solution for us.
Okay, so just to actually clarify that,
Mhm.
the refresh interval, does the refresh interval only come into play when you select auto refresh, or is it always in effect? Like if I do a
Um,
send folder change and my reset interval is set to 10 minutes, is it going to respect the 10 minutes, or is the 10 minutes just in conjunction with auto refresh being selected?
they're different. Let me get it up. They're different things. So if you're looking at on current folder change, you can say only accept one refresh event every 5 seconds, but auto refresh gives you the ability to specify to
Okay,
refresh
so it's
every
all
30
separate things. Okay,
seconds.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they're just different things. Now they may relate. I mean, these might use the same function or feature, but I don't think that they do. I don't think they overlap or interact with each other.
Okay, great.
Do we have anything about refreshing? If I search for refresh, what do I get here? Oh, why is my browser all zoomed out? Refreshing report data using a flow is in reports. Yep. I don't like that it's send folder and tree change event stuff. Send folder and tree change event. Not a fan of that step. I don't know why we have to do both. What is that step? Send folder and tree change event. So I guess this allows you to, it'll update the folder tree. Alex is asking a question related to that. If you use a refresh step in your flow, do you still need to change the behavior parameters on the page? Yes, if you don't specify a refresh behavior on the report viewer, your refresh event step in your flow will not have any effect. It's still it has to be set up to accept a refresh event. It isn't set up by default. Alex, is that your first question? You said I think you said you had two.
I was. I mean, if no one's waiting, I do have a trivial question.
Please go ahead. I don't see any other questions in the list right now.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out what I want to put a navigation image on a dashboard page. And like right now, my dashboard is set up as a grid. And so basically the image is crazy. I'm just kind of wondering what the best practice for this kind of thing is. Is it to write a little bit of CSS to control the size of the image? Because on the actual, on the controls that are related to images, there don't seem to be any ways to, specify a size or anything like that.
I think my first thought is have it be in a non-resizable grid cell, so
Right.
you can control how large or small it is.
Okay.
And so if I was thinking about that, like let's add a new, I'm going to do it on a form since it's just easier to see that way. Well, never mind. Let's do it on a page. So if I look at this grid here, let me clean this up a bit just so I have a single grid. There we go. I've got a grid here. So if I wanted to, if I knew the size that I wanted, oops, let me do advanced layout. If I knew the size that I wanted, let's say it was going to be 300 by 300, these two, this will give me a 300 by 300 square here in the top left where I can put my image. So if I was to find an image, well, I type the word image. So here's image, then I pick my image. There we go. We have a raft icon for some reason. Yeah, and so here, this page will shrink in, this right column in this second row will shrink and expand as the page, depending on the viewport size of the user. But this 300, 300 and 300 will not change. This will always be 300.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, this is my first thought, basically, to create a row column thing that is basically immutable in the size that I wanted the thing to be. But I was hoping that there was possibly just some kind of CSS attribute where I could basically just lock this thing in.
I'm sure that I'm sure there is as well. Yeah, so let's see. How to make static image. No, slideshare, no, go on. Static image, CSS layout. I don't know if we respect all those. Position static. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to do it in cells, then I'm sure that you can, I would assume, I mean, if we look under view, you can apply a CSS class. So I would think that you could write some CSS to control this as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a castle doorway too, Andrew. Oh, that's just a panelist. Yeah. I thought that when I looked at this, Andrew's telling me that he thought it looked like a castle door, and I absolutely thought it was a castle door as well. It's not just you, sir. Okay. Any other questions, sir?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, what other questions do we got? Quiet day today. What if I just look? Maybe it's a slow question day. I'll just look through the support list and answer those questions. If I could get in to the support site, which I can't right now. Suck. I think I have to reset my password, and I should not try that right now while I'm screen sharing on a call. Go ahead, Alex, if you got something else.
Yeah, I can talk forever. Sorry. And this is something that I actually haven't attempted, but I know that it's in my future.
Okay.
And I'm kind of wondering about this breadcrumb control up here at the top, and what kind of control that I have with that. as far as limiting my users to be able to use that navigation tool.
Mm-hmm.
Like ideally just being able to get rid of it.
Now you only can see, the breadcrumb will only show you folders that you can see that you have permissions to. So for example, if I only had, let's assume in this list, I'm in ASDF, Lunch and Learn, My Apps, which we can see here. But if I didn't, if I was giving a user a link straight to ASDF, like this is their dashboard to work from, and they don't have can view permissions on either of these, they shouldn't see any of those. So I don't have any test accounts. Let me create a quick account. We can validate. Always validate. Let me create an account here. So all users, create account, and I'll go to ASDF and I will manage permissions and I will add will@decisions.com. Actually, let me do the right, I'll add all users can use. Oops. Was I in the right? Did I do it twice? Groups, add groups, all users can use open view. And let me log out. And I will sign in as myself. Now I should see ASDF. And here, if you look at the breadcrumbs, it's only going to give me like home, which is my documents, and ASDF. So you don't control it directly, or like in terms of how it shows up, you can control it. You can control it with permissions. Now the question is, can you hide it completely? I think is your other question. And I honestly don't know if we have a hide breadcrumb control or setting. Just let's look at Designer Studio, search for bread, nothing. Portal settings, search for bread, nothing. Crumb, nothing. Yeah, I don't think, now likely we could figure out how to write some CSS to hide this. Let me even look in the theme editor. Do we have anything for folder path color, hover color, home, separator? Oh, you can change the separator, change the home icon. Excuse me. So that's our color. So the sort of silliest idea would be to make it the same color as the header. Let's do that. Actually, I don't want to change that. But it is, don't save. It is just some CSS. I'm sure there's probably a way, if we needed to, that we could guide you on how to come on. Yeah, it's the DP breadcrumbs, text, breadcrumbs item, breadcrumbs home, breadcrumbs container. It's just a list. There's an inside of a div, breadcrumbs, panel breadcrumbs. Yep. So likely, I'm sure that we could write some CSS if we actually wanted it hidden. But you can control what shows up in the breadcrumb view based on the permissions. So again, now, just to contrast again, if I log in here to ASDF, I as an admin have the full path available to me to navigate up through. So I don't know the CSS off the top of my head. But if you just wanted to get rid of it, if not, just hiding the list based on permissions isn't sufficient, I'm sure we can, support can help figure out what CSS needs to be to hide it.
Okay, cool. I'll fiddle around with that.
Mm-hmm. What other questions do we have? Or Alex, if you have more questions, you feel free to go ahead and answer. Yeah, sorry, someone saying something?
Yes. Just
Yeah,
really
Brian.
quickly on the subject of styling. So if we apply a less file to an environment, do we
Mhm.
have to reapply it after an upgrade? Because it seems to be that the upgrade disabled the less file that was applied to an environment I'm working with.
Major or minor version upgrade, Brian?
It was pretty minor. It was just
Like
from like
Well,
617
616
to
to 617.
yeah.
you should not have to redo that. No, in fact, it should be. You should see under System Designers repository. You should see like a less file here, or maybe it's sorry, Designer repository. Yeah, you should see under local server. There's generated code buckets. So you probably should see a less file here as well. It should
Okay.
save itself off. You should not have to. If you did have to, then something is wrong, or something's been broken. The expectation is that you don't have to. Now, major versions, almost always the changes are significant enough that one version's theme edited or custom less file will not pour over.
Got you. Yeah, this was a pretty insignificant less modification. We were just hiding the favoriting option.
Mm-hmm. You should not have to. No. I mean, something can always change, but you shouldn't have to. I think just focusing on the word should there. What you're actually seeing here is that we use the same behavior inside of each application server that we do in our designer repository to store off some of the service. If you have like custom DLLs or less files or code buckets, we'll get those saved off in here in the locals module. And this is the same kind of view that you'd see in our designer repo server. So we're using the same like code to handle that local module stuff.
Well, I'll take a look at that. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you edit it your less file, you should see it here. You should see it in, or possibly, yeah, it should be in summary for trunk resources. You should see it in the resource list here. What else? What other questions do we have? Not much. Not many questions today. Just give it like 5 more minutes, and then if no one else has got anything, we'll go ahead and call it early. All right. I think go ahead and call it a day then. Unless I'm missing anything. No, answer that question complete. Oh, Alex, please go ahead.
Hi, folks. I have a client that is using a very old system written on a database called Adabas and a language called Natural. These are mainframe-based applications, really large, very much legacy, that have been evolving over the last 20 years or so. We understand that there is a way of connecting to Adabas using a SQL gateway that Software AG sells. By the way, both products, Adabas and Natural, are from Software AG. The Natural is a 4GL language used to create, well, many things, but among others, screens that are accessed using 3270 type terminal emulations. Okay, did I manage to lose you so far or not?
No, I think I'm tracking.
Oh, okay. Good. I'm wondering whether there is anything in Decisions that helps integrate with these two. I imagine that using the SQL gateway would allow me to access the Adabas database as if it were an external database, external ODBC file.
That's what it sounds like. Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, other applications use that SQL gateway to connect to Adabas, to, you know, to CRUD. But I'm thinking of Natural and the screens written in Natural, whether there is anything that rings any bell in your mind that Decisions has some connector or plans to do anything with it that might help.
So Natural, you said, is a terminal, is like a terminal UI emulation software?
No, Natural is actually a 4GL. It's a 4th-generation language. And with it, developers build front ends and back ends and whatever's, but typically front ends, right? So for example, all what you do in Decisions with building a form with logic to validate and whatnot, in applications like this are built on Natural, right? So it would be great. We're trying to propose a migration to a platform based on Decisions, but the issue is how you migrate, right? Because writing all this monster on one big swoop is impossible. So if we could use some of their Natural screens, would be great. If there were some type of, you know, interfacing that could be done with Decisions. I know that you can invoke forms in other applications, but I imagine that those are web-based forms. So anything that you have done or that might have been explored in the like of 3270 type emulations or LU connections and all that jazz and mainframes would be great. Or if I could be pointed in that direction, would be even better.
Yeah, I don't know of anyone doing anything close with our tool right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is old stuff, okay? And there are very few left in the world. It's an incredibly powerful platform, by the way, but you know, it didn't take up as much mental space as many other.
Normally, you know, I mean, normally when we go outside of the browser, we have to start talking about some completely custom connectors. So, for example, we have, you know, some of our customers have either built or used like like desktop notification tools that live in the taskbar, and we could send messages to those things. But there's either some sort of centralized server that manages that push notification that we send an event to, or we've actually had to write some custom code to connect to that thing. That's about as close as I think we've done. You know, it sounds like you're pretty confident that if we had the appropriate connection strings that we could, or ODBC connectors, we could connect to the database. I don't see that there's any way I know of for us to make a call to or send a user to or pull up a any kind of terminal screen or local software. Now, one thing, well, I mean, yeah, I've seen something, but it's not gonna. It's still using the browser where we actually were calling the executable. We were calling, like, who was doing this? There's a customer. They use a document imaging system, and they would OCR these documents, and then they'd be put into a into some data store, and there was a local app that everyone would run when they were in the network, and they could pull up these documents and review them. And we were able, I believe what we did to call up a specific doc is build up basically a command line call with arguments passed in for the file name or the file location for that particular document on the network share. And then you would click on an action, which was like an entity, and it would say view doc, and that would actually, I think it might have leveraged either a browser URL file, when you open up an actual file, something like this. That'll load up a file, but or it might have made a command. No, that wouldn't work. It had to have been file, because if we ran a command prompt, it would run on the server, and that wouldn't help the user. I don't. Was that were they connected to the network share, and that this path would actually load up? Yeah, I don't know. Nothing's really coming to mind for how we could do this.
Okay. One more thing that is slightly related. They do have already in the mainframe an integration to this system using kicks. You're familiar with CICS, which is a tool in the mainframe grab bag that allows you to manipulate files, but effectively is used as an RPC type mechanism, right? A remote procedure call mechanism. Is there anything in decisions that allows invoking kicks type calls, like a kicks adapter or something like that, that would call something, and the receiving end would see it as a kicks call? Or
I don't think so. I mean, if you could, it'd be like us executing a PowerShell or a batch script or a Python library, just letting the workflow be the caller of those things would be or of course just some bespoke piece of custom code. If you can do it in PowerShell, then, or Python, yes, you can get the workflow engine to manage those executions for you. That would probably be there. I think we're definitely relying on some sort of middleware layer there for that to be true.
Nothing, and then it's probably something that has to be done with the SDK if one wanted to have steps that could be invoked in a workflow to do kicks or something like that, right?
Yeah. So kicks, let's see. Kicks.NET Framework. Kicks.NET Framework application compatibility. Client applications built using Kicks Transaction Gateway V8.NET API can connect to 8-way daemon using Kicks Transaction Gateway. I mean, looks like there are some .NET libraries for Kicks. And it's true. It is, if you know the calls, adding custom steps can be very trivial. It's quite easy to do. This looks to me .NET. Yeah, this looks to me like there's some sort of a small amount of custom code needed here.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have an immediate business here, but I'm just thinking ahead. We might, and would like to have something in my mind that says how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are a few. I'm looking at the Kix transaction gateways.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be surprised if they had, because whoever has Kix and whoever has mainframes probably has had the need to interface, PC styles or Windows style
Mm-hmm.
applications already, so they may have this as well. Okay, I'll find out and see whether we can learn a bit more. But the short answer to my question on Adabas and Natural is there's nothing native or nothing in the hopper to make anything native in decision.
Correct. Yeah, that's not something that we've been discussing at all. I've not even. Those are even new terms, technologies, or what have you for me. So no, there's nothing.
I'll write it.
Roadmap
I'll write
currently.
it I'll write it in the chat in the Q&A, so you see the.
No, I've been looking at them off screen. All the things you've been talking about here, but yeah, those are not some things we're exploring, doing currently.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Josh, any questions that you might have, sir? We were getting ready to call it a day before Alex asked a question. So if you have a question, please let us know. Yep. Okay. All right. I think last call here, if you will. Back to being a bartender again. Last call for questions. And if not, we'll go ahead and call it a day. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the questions. We will see you tomorrow.